Are you dreaming of the lifestyle that comes with successful trading? Well, it's time to make it a reality. Welcome to the Trading Ascension podcast, where you can discover methods to improve your trading results by focusing on your trading psychology. I'm Jason E., your guide on this path to trading improvement, self-discovery, and self-mastery. Together, we'll explore the personal and spiritual growth journey of profitable day trading. Prepare to unlock the secrets of the trader's mind and align your inner self with your personal success. Listen to this episode if you want to ascend to new levels of trading excellence and personal development. This is Trading Ascension, supporting your journey to mastering trading psychology and personal growth for consistent profits. Let's elevate your trading and your consciousness starting now. In today's episode, we'll uncover potential beliefs that drive your trading results and how to change them so we can break free from self-sabotage. We'll explore the fundamental mental frameworks that are essential for trading success, ideas that you must nurture to become the best trading version of yourself, and the limiting beliefs you need to starve and remove to reach the next level. So, research shows that about 5% of our brain's activity is conscious. The remaining 95% of our actions, thoughts, and beliefs are driven by what we call the subconscious brain or the subconscious mind. And this is why it's so important to examine and upgrade our beliefs, because by bringing our current beliefs into the light, meaning into our conscious awareness, we can identify which subconscious patterns are holding us back. Our results always reflect our beliefs, but it's often hard to pinpoint which thoughts need to be eliminated or changed because they're hiding in the shadows, you know. Sometimes people call it shadow work. So let's pit stop on the research here as far as the subconscious brain. If you want a rabbit hole into brain functionality and subconscious and conscious effects on human actions, you can start with what's called the Libet experiments. Now, in this study, participants were to think a thought and then act upon that thought. For example, like, I'm going to make a fist, right? And then make the fist. Now, the brain activity was being monitored at this time. There were a few more details, you know, they were connected to EEGs, things like that. But you guys get the point, I think. What's interesting about this study is they found the conscious decision did not cause the movement. It was secondary in the order of the mental process, right? WTF. The catalyst of hand movement started before the conscious mind willed anything to happen. Right? You get that? The fist was in the process of moving before the person said, I'm going to make a fist. Listen, this study showed that this was the order, right? I'm just trying to make sure I explain this clearly. The subconscious brain said, you know, I'm going to make a fist. That's one. Two, the person doing the experiment thought, I'm going to make a fist, right? And mind you, they thought they were the source of the idea to make the fist, as we all do, right? When we think something, we think we thought that thought. But then third, the fist moved, right? And this is mind blowing. And it opened up further discussion for folks who think, you know, we have no free will. They may think that the conscious mind is simply a report of what has already come to pass mentally, but yet to manifest, right? Now, most commonly, in what seems to be, at least to me, the foundation of the self-help industry in today's form, because this study was 1983, it's the idea that the human has more of an opportunity for will not than free will. So will not, that means there's a small space, very small, in which we can veto actions and create new paths for ourselves, overriding the subconscious agenda. Today, I want to talk about subconscious reprogramming. But of course, you know, the other part of that is, as traders and just people on the growth path, we have interest in maximizing that little space there, right? In which we can steer the ship of our thoughts and actions. So unknowingly, related to this research, this community, we always talk about this, right? How to overcome habitual thinking and acting while we trade, right? So to close this kind of sidetracked here, the habits to maximize conscious control over automated subconscious processes is supported. And of course, this is not limited to, but there's 5 things I want to highlight. So these are 5 things that we can do in order to gain more control and more conscious awareness when it comes to that small gap between what the subconscious agenda is and us saying, no, this is what we need to do to align more with our personal goals, right? The goals that we're setting for the future. And so, I don't know, I think about that experiment and it's mind blowing, right? And there's just so many rabbit holes. So Labette experiment, I think what I said, 1983, you might want to look into that. But if we want to do what, I remember the trading coach I had on the show, Jared Tindler, he said, injecting logic, right? So trying to get into that space and change things. So this show is going to be about changing the subconscious programming, but let's stop here for just a second, a little bit more. 5 things. 1 is identify our challenges and triggers, right? So we want to keep a log of situations and emotions that precede impulsive trades, right? When we notice a trigger, we want to consciously pause and ask ourselves, right? If we plan this action, is it rational or is it emotional? 2, we want to practice thought stopping, right? We want to build the muscle of thought stopping. When a negative or impulsive thought arises, mentally, you might want to mentally say stop. Some people say cancel in their brains. For me, I feel like I'm getting in front of a train when I do that, and it kind of fights back more, but it's a tool. And once you do that, whatever you do to get off that thought, you just redirect your focus to your trading plan and go into like a calming phase. Me personally, I've used those tools. I kind of switch back and forth. I think you need multiple tools in the battle of the mind. But I'd like to just say, I love you. I appreciate you talking. I like to make sure that the subconscious is heard so it doesn't reject. That personally helps me kind of get on a different path sooner versus arguing. And the subconscious, they say, was formed before the age of like 7, before the age of 8, around the age of 7. So I like to treat it like a kid, right? Make sure it's heard before I move forward. But whatever strategy works, you want to practice thought stopping. And then we have to reframe negative thoughts. This is number 3. Use cognitive restructuring to turn self-defeating thoughts like I always lose into constructive ones, right? I'm learning and I'm improving with each trade. And it can be exhausting. And I'll be honest with you, like very few people want to do the work that it takes to reprogram a mind. There are other ways, there's sleep hypnosis, there's regular hypnosis, there's a lot of things out there. And I'm the person who loves this path, so I'm willing to try them all and have tried most of them. But you want to go tick for tat. And that's the exhausting part I'm talking about with these thoughts. So if there's a negative thought, we're replacing it. Another negative thought, we're replacing it. The nuke bomb of just getting out of that, of course, is meditation, right? But meditation just gets you to a place of where everything's calm. So when those thoughts arise, you can see them. Sometimes in a chaotic mind, they can rise up, run around, and you have no idea because so much is going on in your head. Number 4 is visualization. So we want to regularly visualize ourselves following our trading plan, right? We often talk about the future self and the end results, but it's empowering to visualize ourselves taking the action that we need to take to reach our goals, right? And then we want to visualize ourselves taking that action even in stressful situations, right? So imagine successfully pausing before acting on an impulse. Number 5, set clear intentions, right? Again, it's hard to know what you're supposed to be doing when you don't have the plan of this is the correct action. So each morning, set a clear intention on how you want to approach your trading day. And this is honestly, it's been helpful for me, right? Just a clear intention. This is how I want to be. This is how I want to show up. This is how I want to feel emotionally, and really marinating on that plan just as well as the trading plan, the strategy and things for the day, and going into the day with clarity on all of that and a refreshness on the clarity, right? Refreshing it right at that moment before action, focusing on patience, discipline, awareness, right? So, okay. I always like to share research, right? So you guys know I'm not talking out of my neck. Check that out. There's a lot of different rabbit holes and paths you can go down the conversation of free will and will not. And will not's kind of, I never heard it in that phrase. More familiar with that injecting logic and really just taking control of that moment. But it's interesting. So let's get back on track as we talk more about actually altering the subconscious programming that supersedes our actions. Right. In today's episode, I'm going to divide it into 3 parts. One is a foundational belief that most successful traders share. Number 2, the most common reasons behind self-sabotage. And I'll address that word. I keep saying that just so you guys understand what I mean, but it's not that. And 3, actionable steps for rapid change and better trading results. If you struggle with sticking to your trading plan, if you experience repeated cycles of self-sabotage, air quoting that word, and inconsistency, if you want to break free from emotional triggers and limiting beliefs that undermine your performance, especially if you're looking, for practical strategies to align your mindset, habits for long-term trading success, then this episode is for you. So like we hate the drive-through, let's get it in. Most successful traders believe my plan will play out in my favor over time. Some form of that idea, right? So we have to make this belief our own, and then we have to test it in challenging moments, right? And this is just a mental exercise. We want to notice any inner resistance that those beliefs address, and we have to upgrade them. So some form of that you have to believe, right? Something like my plan will play out in my favor over time. If I follow my plan, I'll reach my trading goals. I trust my trading system. I have an edge and I can stick to the process without deviating, right? So once you have this statement, right, make it something that resonates with you. And I want you to sit with it. And then I want you to mentally test it. And this is how. Say to yourself, in situations you have identified as times that you start to backslide, you want to say this statement, and then you see what thoughts might be fighting against it, right? If you just listen to your mind, it's interesting what you can prompt and trigger, right? We always talk about AI prompts. That's a big thing these days. But you can prompt your mind to give answers to yourself, right? And just see what arises. So when those thoughts come up, then you can address them and dissolve them. So, for example, this is how it would look, right? We have that belief that my system can be trusted. I don't have to deviate from it. So if I say to myself, right, just sitting quietly, if I follow my trading system, I'll make money. Right? And then I just kind of listen, make sure my mind's okay with that. After a loss, if I stick to my trading system, I'll still be successful. After a losing day, if I stick to my trading system the next day, I'll still be successful. See how you react to that. Do you believe it? A lot of times after a loss, we start to get into a panic mode, or if something doesn't go our way, or the ego says, oh no, the market should do this and it doesn't. We panic and then we take actions that we think are going to get us back on track. But really, since they aren't in the predetermined success plan, they just take us further off track. And then you wake up from it like, dang, I didn't have to do that. I deviated. Something unconsciously took me over. And here I am again, where I was before. I had the similar situation arise, and I didn't show up differently. And it hurts, right? That's a painful feeling. It's a painful moment to live through, but it's a moment that we have to embrace and we have to grow from. So let's pivot. We have that information. We're testing out that statement. So that's part 1. Now, I want to talk about the main reasons that we fall victim to subconscious sabotage. And I've said this before, because it's actually actions that it's not self-sabotage, because it's actually actions that are in alignment with previous subconscious goals and programming. So if we consider that, it's really not sabotage, right? We are programmed, and a lot of times this programming starts before 7, the age of 7. At least that's what, we're told from studies, right? We're pretty much locked into the person we're going to be at the age of 7. Before 7, this happens because we're in this theta state and we're accepting everything in our environment consciously, unconsciously. We're watching, we're learning, we're creating a structure on how to handle the world. Now, what's interesting, and I understand this as being a child of parents and also, being a parent now, is that we do our best with our children. Parents did, their best that they could with the person they were. And then as you set goals in the world, maybe some things that you were taught and learned support that. Maybe some things don't. But who knows what you're going to take on in life. So it's hard to blame the people who programmed you around you, and that helps understanding that they were programmed as well. And you're just following a lineage of program on a program on top of program. Each generation, I can tell you this, being a son and a parent, is each generation, it seems to get more highlighted, right? They say I think this is the Bible that says this, that the sins of a father, meaning just parents, are 7 generations deep. So a lot of things that you're dealing with, some things that are getting in your way as a trader, or things that have been in your family, right? Reactions, habits, character traits. But again, the whole point I'm going down this rabbit hole is that you have to be accountable and not want to blame others in order to release these things. So we have this programming, and this programming doesn't align with us saying, hey, the new me is a successful trader. And there are a lot of these things. We're going to talk about a few of these things that may be the reason that this happens. So a lot of times they're said it happens before 7. And this is another kind of note on this. If you're doing work like this, a lot of times you hear the idea that there's 2 schools, right? Maybe more, but 2 I want to talk about. You hear that you have to go back into the original memory, right? The childhood memory. And then there's other individuals that say, you know what? You just want to find the heightened emotion of this memory, right? Because you may take an action. You might be like, when did I start believing that? And then you think about an incident that happened, right? That said, you know what? It's not okay to have money. People suck, right? And maybe it was this big blow up that you had when your parents were arguing when you were 14 before their divorce or something like that. And then, the old school or one school says, hey, that belief actually started before you were 7. Right? And maybe you can remember an event early in age. Maybe you can't, maybe you go through the process of asking your mind to make it up, right? Just so you can do the subconscious work and release it. And then there's individuals that say the energy of the event is what we need to dissolve anyway, right? That's what we're working towards. So you can skip the step of the story, right? So, it's all the tools that we use. One good book on that, Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, has a lot of tools, and he's more on the side of the energy of the event, right? So I can see both of them being helpful, but sometimes you have powerful events later in life. So I still haven't reconciled that, still doing the research on that, but just wanted to examine both paths. So in no specific order, these are the reasons that we take actions that aren't aligned with the best trading version of ourselves. First is just a misalignment of values and beliefs. If your core values and beliefs are not aligned with your goals, self-discipline becomes a struggle. You're fighting against yourself. For example, if you value comfort over growth, you'll unconsciously sabotage your own plan, no matter how well written it is. Because the programming says, hey, we need to be comfortable, right? So when that uncomfortable situation comes, you're going to shy away from it unknowingly. And then there's lack of emotional mastery. This is huge for traders because the market by design prompts emotions out of humans, and emotional states drive behavior. So if you haven't learned to manage your emotions, such as stress, boredom, or fear, you'll revert to old habits instead of following your plan, right? And one thing I want to be clear on is that we never eliminate emotions. We only get better at handling them. The example that I always give, you heard me say this before, is that, professional fighters, I like to watch a lot of mixed martial arts, UFC, and a lot of those fighters in interviews, they say, yeah, man, I still have a level of fear going into these fights, even as champions. But the level that they had when they were fighting, in yards and small venues is handled differently when they're fighting in stadiums and large venues, right? So the emotion's still there. They just have outgrown it in some sort, but it's hard to dissipate it completely. So we have to not revert to those old habits and find ways to overcome that emotion, to follow the plan and adhere to the plan. The next one is unclear or uncompelling visions, right? Without a vivid, emotional, compelling vision of what success looks like, it's easy to lose motivation and momentum. A vague goal doesn't create the pull necessary to overcome obstacles. So it's talking about that. I'm talking about the balance of pull and push motivation, right? So we get so uncomfortable in a situation and we're like, you know what? I want to be somewhere, not here. This situation, circumstance is not serving me. I want it different. But then we can get stuck because we don't have a place to land, right? We don't have the GPS locked in. And then that GPS on the, further down the road, it may be vague. Oh, I just want to be a successful trader. Oh, I want to make $1,000 a month trading, right? And then we have to think about the why. We have to think about the why because we have to emotionally attach to this because emotion drives actions in humans. So if you have an unclear or uncompelling vision, you need to work on it. And all you have to do that is you have to, and we'll talk more about solutions in a second, but just to drop this here, you have to feel your way into that situation. You start with, okay, I make that 1K a month. Then what? What do I do with it? How does it feel? What do I look like? Okay, next. Ineffective routines and environment. We talked about environment last week. Habits and environment shape behavior more than willpower. If your routines don't support your goals or your environment is filled with distractions and temptations and counterproductive things that you're absorbing visually, you'll struggle to stay on track. Another thing that pulls us away from taking the action we want is disempowering beliefs or a lack of certainty, right? And I think that's foundational. That's why we address ambiguity on this show, because the research says, right, and we've talked about it before, the human brain does not function well in ambiguity, right? If you think of an engine without oil, because it can still run without oil, but it's only a matter of time before it ceases, right? And so the belief and the certainty, I should say, not the belief, but the certainty, the lack of ambiguity in a plan is like oil. It keeps things running smoothly, right? If you unconsciously don't believe that you can change, or you unconsciously expect to fail, you won't follow through. Belief systems are foundational to lasting change. And then the last one here, the absence of immediate feedback and celebration. And this is one of the principles of deliberate practice. And it's also a principle of behavioral change. And it's some of the things that, I talk with traders when we speak one-on-one, and also with traders in, mastermind groups or coaching. It's an important aspect, right? Often missed, often not understood, but you have to have immediate feedback. If you don't acknowledge the progress and even celebrate small wins, motivation wanes and plans feel like chores rather than a journey, right? And this works in all aspects of life. One of the benefits of being a coach, right, is I coach, athletes in sports, high school, collegiate level, and even, my son's sports, younger kids, is that immediate feedback says, oh, okay, I just took this action. Now I know the correct action. When you get feedback later down the path, it's hard to connect the exact action and the emotion that you were in when you took that action. It's hard to connect it to the new plan, right? The new direction. So to sum this up, right? Summary of the root causes: behavioral incongruence, right? You know what to do, but your daily actions don't match your intentions because your identity, your beliefs, and your emotional patterns are not yet aligned with your desired outcome. Once that is true, right? Once your identity, your beliefs, and your emotional patterns are aligned with your desired outcome, it gets noticeably, that word's killing me, different. You can notice the difference. You'll feel different. You'll act different. And it won't be such a battle to do the right things and act in your own best interest. And then again, fear of short-term pain. This is one of the root causes. Many people avoid sticking to new plans because they unconsciously associate them with discomfort or loss, and they expect only short-term rewards, right? They call it the devil you know. Sometimes the devil you know is better than the angel that's unknown, right? So you're like, man, if I do that, what's out there? Right? This plays a big part in, if I'm not who I am, who will I be? When it comes to behavioral change and habit change. So the pain of losing one trade, we can't avoid that. We can't avoid losses because those are the lessons we learn from. We can't avoid setbacks because those are the wisdom that we need to move forward as day traders, excuse me. The key is in the losses and in the setbacks as a day trader, right? Don't avoid that. Don't cheat yourself and think that you can move forward. And that comes from, number 3, a lack of accountability and support. We have to be accountable. We have to tie our results to our actions, but not to our state of being, not to who we are as a person, right? So yeah, I took the action that caused that losing trade that didn't adhere to my plan, but that doesn't mean I'm a loser, right? So you have to know where to cut off that accountability. Trying to change in isolation makes it a lot harder, right? It makes it a lot easier on the other side to fall back into old patterns. Supportive peer group, a mentor can provide the push needed to stay consistent, right? I love talking trades, and trading with my friends that I have these discussions with. And even if we don't trade the same way, right? Just disclosing our plans and stuff are great. And that's what masterminds are for, right? Which you'll get more information soon on. And again, support at tradingascension.com if you do have interest in joining the mastermind. Probably going to keep the group pretty small, but don't have to have the same trading style. It's just about the accountability, the motivation, and really addressing the things that we talk about every week in a way that's going to make you consistently putting the correct inputs so you can almost guarantee the output. So let's get to solutions. Here are 8 tips to help you move forward rapidly towards your trading goals, get aligned, and reach your personal success. I want you to pick at least one thing from this item and implement it today. Right? This is a boring show, right? I try to, be myself, but this is not entertainment. Right? This is not like other channels where it's like, oh man, I can just entertain. No, this is about information that's going to help change you. So if you don't implement something, if you don't take action today, you're probably missing out on it. Right? And I doubt I'm entertaining enough for you just to listen to for no reason. So I'm sure you're here for the right reasons, right? I always hope that something in each episode makes you think, oh, I haven't explored that topic much. And then the awareness you gain aids your growth. Right? And you can start exploring these paths yourself. I can't change you. It's tough enough trying to change myself and follow this path, right? I'm just trying to fight these battles. I naturally have this, what I call a Hansel and Gretel mindset, in which I just naturally log my process. If I have a result in my life, please believe I know exactly how I got it, right? To some extent, right? There's randomness, there's luck, there's blessings from the Most High. But I'm not one of those humans who, nothing wrong on this. I'm just, we're all different. But I'm not the person who's like, oh, I got this result. I don't know how I got it. I don't know what I do. I don't have a system. No, I'm a systems person, right? So implement something from this list. So let's talk about forward movement advice, some steps to rapid change. Number 1, and this is no specific order, but number 1 is clarify and intensify your vision. Create a vivid, emotionally charged vision of your desired outcome. Visualize not just the achievement, but the feelings, the impact, and the rewards that come with it, right? You have to be yourself in that vision. So let's say you create this picture and I'm on the beach and I have a drink of with an umbrella in it and, a pretty person or a handsome person next to me, right? It's not enough to visualize that and be, floating above it, third person. You want to be in that body. You want to be seeing your hands the same way you see your hands when you hold them up in front of your face. It's like you're VRing into this vision. And then you're thinking about who you have to be in that vision for those things around you to manifest, right? So don't take that route of misalignment with goals and just seeing, oh, there's a scene and I want that scene. No, you have to be in the scene. You have to be in the scene. That's how you visualize. And you want to ask yourself, right? What is my ultimate why for this goal? A strong why fuels persistence. Number 2, we have to align our values and beliefs. Examine your current beliefs and values. Are any of them in conflict with your plan? Replace limiting beliefs with empowering ones, right? For example, I am disciplined and follow through on my commitments, right? And a lot of things, as I think about that affirmation there, a lot of things that we do in trading are who we are as a person. So they bleed into other areas of life, meaning that if you work on, being a person of your word and positive thinking and things like that outside of trading, it will bring itself into trading, right? Because trading is it exemplifies who we are. Excuse me. So do things like use daily affirmations, visualizations to reinforce the new identity that you're seeking to visualize and reinforce your future self. And number 3, we have to master. Just take a second because these words are slapping me in the face. I'm thinking too fast and I'm excited. And you know what? And I'm excited. I'm a little bit pumped. I want to talk about the new nootropic. Not today. I'll mention that. I'm always trying out some new brain stuff for focus and things like that. But anyway, let me get back on track. Master our emotional state. Is that where I was? I think so. This is 3. We have to develop rituals to shift our state of being before taking action, right? Remember the verses in the Bible to talk about you have to, seek God first, then all else will follow. Or even the statement be, do, have, right? You have to be so you can do, then you can have, right? So you have to be in that state of being so you can take action from that state and you can have the results you want. So we want to develop these rituals before taking action, such as movement, music, breathing exercises, right? Something to create energy and focus. In NLP, we call them anchors, right? So there's something that gets you, and athletes know this, something that they do, right? They usually have rituals, right? This is what I do before a game. This is the song I listen to. This is the way I put on my socks. They have something that says in their mind, hey, it's game time, right? And it wouldn't hurt you. It actually would help you to develop some kind of morning routine so you can learn to recognize and interrupt negative emotion patterns that may lead to procrastination or avoidance, right? Because you've primed that state. Number 4 is build empowering routines and environment, right? And this kind of plays off the last one. You want to break your plan into small daily habits and routines when you have these large goals, because consistency is more important than intensity, right? One thing I've struggled with is I have this athletic kind of football energy, but I have to be calm trading, right? I can't be tapping hard and aggressively. Like, that's not the energy I need to bring into trading. So, small daily habits, routines, and then optimize your environment, remove distractions, add cues that support new behaviors, visual checklists, accountability, partners, right? Post-trading, things like that for your environment. 5, take immediate, massive action on these goals. like taking one of these and starting, to break it down how you're going to implement it. Don't wait for perfect moments. Start now. Even with imperfect action or imperfect action, momentum builds and it builds motivation, right? Not the other way around, right? Use the hour, I was going to say power hour, but Pomodoro, use techniques like that to focus. And then I guess hours of power, I use that in the morning. So they say the first 20 minutes of your day, the first hour of your day is going to set the tone for your entire day, right? So you have to protect that hour more than almost any other hour of the day. I would also say the hour before you go to bed is important as well, right? Because it's what you're taking into the dream state, which gives it a better chance at manifestation. And that's why we don't want to sleep and go to bed with stress or getting right off the phone and going to sleep. So the first hour of your day, protect it. Implant the ideas, the thoughts, the beliefs, the habits, clarity of the habits and the emotions that you want the rest of the day to reflect. The next one, this is number 6, review, adjust, and celebrate progress. Last week, I talked about celebrating, which is something that I haven't done my whole career, but it's important to celebrate the non-action wins. You skip that trade, celebrate it, right? Because trading is just as much about what we do and what we don't do equally. So celebrate non-action wins. And then, of course, we're setting up the weekly review to track our progress, right? As part of the success generator system, we're going to identify obstacles so we can adjust ourselves and adjust our strategy with longer terms of data, of course, so we can get on track by learning, documenting and learning. And then those small wins, you got to celebrate them because we want to reinforce that new habit in our identity. All right, I can't say that enough. Number 7 is role models and accountability are going to help eliminate some of these disempowering, air quote, self-sabotage behaviors. So you want to find someone who is on the same path as you, that you can trust, someone who's already achieved what you want. And you want to model their strategies, their beliefs, their habits. Every guest I've had on this show, it's changed me. There's something I've taken every show. There's something that I'm growing for, right? And I think this is 100 and maybe 70th show, right? It's getting up there. Thank you all for being here on this journey with me. There's communities out there like this one, right? If you need an accountability partner, let me know. I can match you with someone else in the community, right? If you are seeking that, again, we have the mastermind coming. So just pairing people with other great people. Sometimes we can be on islands out there, but you need someone who's going to support you and challenge you. And, if you're struggling in that area, even if you just have someone and say, you know what, I'm going to present these results to you every day or every week, and they have no clue what you're presenting, there's still a level of accountability there. And over time, if they care about you, they'll learn. They'll understand like, oh, okay, last week you said this week. There's a discrepancy there, and you can have empowering conversations, right? Even with people who aren't traders. But again, you want to find someone on the path. But accountability is accountability. It's going to help you. And then this is the last thing. Practice self-compassion. Right? Don't be so hard on yourself. Understand that setbacks are part of the process. When you don't embrace that, right, you start to, the self-talk gets brutal, right? The things that we can say to ourselves, right? If you had a manager that was saying the things behind you, standing over your computer screen that you say to yourself, you'd be like, I got to fight this cat, right? If they're standing over you, you make a mistake and they're like, you're dumb. You'll never do this. What the hell are you thinking, idiot? Right? Sometimes we, said those things to ourselves, right? Maybe even worse. But if someone else said it, it'd probably be a problem, right? You wouldn't want to hear that. Don't say it to yourself, right? These are learning opportunities. Setbacks are not a reason to quit. Sometimes we have to ride that emotional wave into, pain, anger, disappointment. But we got to get back on track as soon as possible. We talked about the methods of change, right? And one of them is the reaction method, which is probably a good time to go back into that, right? The foundational teaching of the growth methods that we believe in this community. But one of those is the reaction method. And so how you react, showing up different to a similar situation and how you react to it, it's a sign of growth, right? So if you did say something that wasn't kind, compassionate to yourself after a loss, the next time you say something more empowering or you bounce back sooner from that emotion, you're doing great. You're doing great, right? That's a reason for the A pat on the back. So remember this, your subconscious beliefs drive most of your trading decisions, often without us even realizing it. By bringing these beliefs into our conscious awareness, listening to shows like this and doing that work and adopting empowering mindsets, right? And most importantly, like we started the show with, powering mindsets like trusting your plan so you don't adhere from it. And then by using these practical strategies like mindfulness and habit building, we can stop this self-sabotage and start trading with greater discipline and greater confidence. Man, and we all want that, right? Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. I pray for your success, literally, and your growth. Don't seek goals, my friends. That is the long path to results. You want to identify that's something you want in your life. You want to get clear on it and then think about who you have to become to get those results. It's not external, right? It's outward growing, outward coming. I don't know if that's, I got to find a better word from that, but it's spawning from within us, right? We're not seeking things outside of ourselves. We're seeking to be something so our environment can reflect that. That's the fast path because we can control mostly ourselves. So it's empowering to know that, hey, if I change myself, I can get different results versus trying to chase something externally. This is how we purposely steer our thinking and our responses to thoughts that we already have. And when we do that, we can structure our actions with consistency so they form habits, and then those habits build beliefs. Over time, that builds a character within us. Success is the path, not the destination, right? Milestones are destinations. So we have to balance both. Remember, if you tomorrow, right, on Monday, your first trading day, whenever you trade next in your next session, if you take successful actions, you are a successful trader, you're going to get successful results, right? So think of success as the path, right? Things you can do right now as you try to reach these milestones and goals. You don't reach success, right? You become success. Have a great week. And here's to being the hero of your story. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Trading Ascension Podcast. I hope you're gaining valuable insights to support your day trading journey. If you found value today, I'd appreciate it if you could follow me on Instagram, Real Trading Ascension, subscribe on YouTube, and give this episode a like. Your support helps me grow and bring you even better content. Be sure to visit tradingascension.com for free resources, exclusive tips, and tools designed to elevate your trading. I'm inviting you back. Join me in the next episode as we continue to ascend together. Until then, keep ascending, stay mindful, and remember, your journey to mastering trading psychology and consistent profits starts with your commitment to personal growth. Yeah.